Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of the Old Men Magic podcast. In this episode, your hosts Alex and Steve goof on Trump's digital trading cards, wonder why people are buying out Tika's dragon, and most importantly, discuss my starting lineup for a Premodern Goblins deck. The goblins that are, in my opinion, auto-includes. Let's get right into the episode. I hope you enjoy. This is where I rub my hand to the mic. And then I say, how was your Saturday, Alex? Did you have a good Saturday?
Good. How was yours? Yeah.
It was all right. I just watched the World Cup game, which was pure insanity. I missed the first half. And then I turned it on and Argentina was up 2-0. And I don't know, for like the first 15 or 20 minutes of the second half, it was kind of boring. Argentina was in full control. And then it was pure chaos after that. They were penalty in the box. France scored off the PK. Then they scored like a minute later. So they had like two goals, minute 80 and 81 to tie it up. And then it went into overtime. And Argentina scored in overtime. And then France came back and tied it up. Emmanuel Macron was punching the air. They kept cutting to the French president, like throwing air punches. And then, of course, it went to PKs, and Argentina eventually won in penalty kicks. This is like my least favorite thing about professional soccer, penalty kicks. And I understand you don't want every game to go like 7 hours. So eventually you have to go to PKs and just wrap it up. But I think for like the biggest games, World Cup finals, there should be no PKs. They should be like, okay, we have our overtime.
Play until you fall dead.
Exactly. If it's 15-minute overtime, 30-minute overtime, whatever, if still it's tied up after that, you just have no time limit, sudden death rules. No time limit, whoever scores first, that's the end. I think that would be much more exciting than penalty kicks. And I don't know how many players actually love penalty kicks. It seems like it's such a, I don't like that the game's in that way. It's not a game of soccer.
I'd rather watch more soccer than penalty kicks.
So would I. But anyways, that's what they do. They wrap it up with penalty kicks. I would just hate to lose a major tournament by penalty kicks. It would just be terrible.
Yeah.
Argentina won. Messi gets the cup. I wasn't really rooting for France. I was rooting for Argentina to begin with, but then France had that comeback. Then I always start rooting for the comeback because you get excited to see the comeback. Mm-hmm. But anyways, that was my whole Saturday, just watching the World Cup final win in overtime. And now I'm here to podcast, Alex.
The Vikings came back from a 33-0 deficit yesterday to beat the Colts, and they said it was the biggest comeback ever in NFL history, which surprised me. I would have thought there was a bigger comeback than 33 points before.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts, though. 4 touchdowns and a field goal.
It is. It's still
4
nuts.
touchdowns and 2 field goals, or 5 touchdowns and a missed.
If you getting, take the 2 instead of taking the extra point. Yeah. Conversion.
I haven't been following football at all. Is this the last week of the regular season?
No.
Okay.
2 more games, maybe. I'm not sure. Surprised me. I'm not sure.
But Alex, our first episode with video was fairly successful, possibly. We got a fair number of views. The view time was very low. People were turning off immediately when they saw our faces. But we're going to continue. We're going to push through. We're going to dress better. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to start working out.
I'm wearing my old Moonanites hoodie.
I wore a slightly nicer shirt today. we weren't planning. I wasn't planning on posting the video of the last podcast, but I was sitting there like halfway through thinking about what we were doing. We were just showing cards the entire episode. And I was like, why don't we just go video here? We'll see how it works out.
Yeah. It's weird if we're talking so much about card art and you can't see it. Yeah. So we may as well start doing it. By the way, it's week 15 of 18 in the NFL.
Okay. So this is going to be episode 2 with video. I want to start this episode with a follow-up to the last episode.
All right.
Full art versus borderless variants. I was listening back when I was editing the last episode, and I was thinking, I don't know that I'm using these terms correctly. So I looked it up. And I was not using the terms correctly. I kept saying full art variants, but I was really talking about cards that are just borderless variants. I don't know if you know the difference. I'm kind of behind on a lot of this stuff because
Well,
these were not things that existed back
Right.
in the day when we played. We've just gotten back into the game, and there are so many different there's so many card variants that are put out. I can't keep them all straight in my head.
Yeah. Plus, with everything they're releasing, different new sets every set has like something specific or slightly different.
Yeah.
Different types of foils and stuff.
But we were talking. What were we going to say?
Sorry. Oh, I was just saying I was sort of using them interchangeably, but I know there's a difference. Like my understanding was that you have a borderless version, and then you have the like extended art version, which is kind of like. Well, anyways, I'll let you continue.
Well, when I'm getting confused,
I don't know how to describe it very well.
I don't even know the difference between the borderless and the extended art yet. I've only gotten this far, figured out the difference between the borderless and the full art. I kept saying full art. Full art variants are something very specific, and it sounds like they're mostly just promotional cards that aren't even available for sale. Full art cards usually distributed as prizes at tournaments, Magic Champs and state events, and later Magic Game Day. Full art cards were given away to participants for promo for the top 8, blah, blah, blah. And here's a list on mtgfandom.com, list of full art cards. These are very different than the cards we were looking at.
Oh, yeah.
For the Dominaria Remastered sets last week. Those are borderless variants. These are full art cards. Full art cards have a border. Just the art extends all the way out to near the edge of the card where the border is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't even know if these things are ever available for sale, if they ever actually include true full art variants in sets, or if they're only given out as promos. But according to
it
this,
looks like they're all promos.
Yeah, according to this website, it's mostly promos
from a long time ago too.
Yeah. So I don't know. There might have been like one person that was listening to the last episode that was like getting angry every time they heard me say full art variants. And it's like, that's not full art. Not full art. But we're learning, man. We're still learning. So that was one follow-up I had to last episode. That was the only follow-up I had to last episode. Let's get into some new topics this week. So before we get into Magic the Gathering, Alex, there was something new there was a major announcement. This is how it was pitched, actually. It was pitched as a major announcement. The internet was buzzing. What would this major announcement be? It was a major announcement by our 45th president, Donald Trump. And his major announcement was one of the most absurd things that I have ever heard. And actually, a lot of his followers got kind of upset. Baked Alaska was losing his mind. I don't know if you're familiar at all with Baked Alaska, but he's an internet weirdo who went like full culture warrior around the time of the Trump election, because that's how he gets the most attention. And I think he was actually arrested for something he did on January 6th. I don't know exactly what his involvement was, but he was very upset after this major announcement. He thought it was going to be something actually important. And he was like,
a lot of people made it sound like he was going to announce he was running for president again or something.
He might have already announced that. I heard some people like hoping this was going to be him announcing his vice president.
Running mate. Yeah.
Baked Alaska was very upset. He was like, I can't believe I'm going to prison for this guy. It's like, yeah, you might be. Steve Bannon was freaking out. He was like, I don't understand who he has around him. He needs a new team around him. Why are they letting him do these things? He's ruining everything. But anyways, his major announcement, it was actually major. It was much more exciting than I thought it would be. He announced Trump cards.
Yes.
If you're interested, you can go to collecttrumpcards.com. When I first heard the news, Alex, I thought this is the biggest news in the world of collectible cards since the 1991 Topps Desert Storm set was released. I don't know if you remember that set at all.
Steve, I have a set in my closet. I have a set of those. I received it unasked for as a gift.
Back in 1991? Is it sealed? Is it sealed still?
Yep. No, it's not sealed. No, it's it's a complete collection of them. Like, did not ask for that, but I received it as a gift.
Was it from your dad or from like your grandpa?
Yeah, from my dad.
Okay.
And, it's been in the closet ever since.
I remembered those. I totally forgot about those cards until I came back to Magic recently. I've noticed that like in the old school world, a lot of old men, they'll use those cards as like their tokens. when they're playing something and they have a token
Really?
generator in their deck. Yeah, they bust out the Desert Storm cards. And
That's
I was
sweet.
like, the Trump cards are going to be like the new major token for a certain subset of Magic the Gathering weirdos. I mean, I would have played them, and I was severely disappointed when I learned about what they actually are. Alex, they're not even cardboard. They're not physical cardboard. They're NFTs.
Yeah, right.
Now, I guess this is the way, like if you're a grifter, this is the way to make more money at the moment. Although like 6 months ago would have been a much better time to release NFTs, because NFTs are like at an all-time low right now.
Yes.
But despite that, Trump killed it with these NFTs. Limited edition digital trading cards, only $99 a piece. And if you go to this website, you'll see that they actually sold out. And this isn't a Magic the Gathering, the sale has concluded statement. They were actually,
no, it says
they
sold
actually
out.
are sold out. And if you want them now, you have to get them on the secondary market. And I guess they've been going berserk. Like I saw somewhere the other day that they had like doubled in price the day after they sold out already. And now some of them are going for up to $700. So you could really make a lot of money potentially flipping Trump cards, digital Trump NFTs. Although I don't know, at this point, you may have already missed the boat. Like if you buy in at $700, you may be buying at the top. You may be the greater fool in this pyramid scheme. I feel like that's probably the peak. I don't think they're going to go higher than $700. Alex, but I guess maybe it all depends on when the sweepstakes end, because when you buy a digital Trump card, you don't just buy the NFT, you buy a chance to win all sorts of amazing prizes, Alex.
Oh God.
The amazing prizes are Miami dinner with Donald Trump, and this is Donald Trump as a Montana sheriff.
Wow.
You can win a Mar-a-Lago group cocktail hour. I don't know who else is going to be involved in that group. I don't know why you would want to be a member of that group, but maybe. You could win a one-on-one meeting with number 45. So you could be sitting in the very chair that maybe Kanye West or Nazi lover Nick Fuentes were just
those
sitting
aren't the titles of the NFTs?
I mean, I think they are, but no, these are actually the prizes that you get. See, win. If you buy these particular NFTs, like you could win these prizes. I don't know how many copies of each exist, but you buy a particular NFT, you're entered in the sweepstakes to get these prizes. This one would be fun. Play golf with Trump and your friends. He stops by for an hour. He shoots the shit. He talks about how the election was rigged. He shakes your hand, take a couple photos. Everybody smiles, and then you get to keep playing golf. So that's one thing.
That is one thing. How many of these activities do you feel like he will bail on and not attend in reality?
I think he'll probably make it to the Zoom calls. So here's an individual Zoom call with Donald. He might actually show up to the individual one. The group Zoom session, if you win this one, it'd probably just be you and like 50 other people just like hanging out, gallery review and Zoom. Who knows if he'd ever show up to that one. Hand-signed memorabilia. He loves signing things, so you would definitely get that.
Fair enough.
And the others, like if it happens at Mar-a-Lago, like the Mar-a-Lago dinner, he's already there. So I feel like he probably will like make a short appearance. And as long as you don't say the wrong thing, like when he shows up, he might stick around for a little bit. You just flatter the guy. You tell him how he looks even better in person than he looks in his NFTs, which I will say he looks slim and trim in his NFTs. I don't think I've seen the Donald.
Very slim and trim in those NFTs.
I don't think I've ever seen the man looking this good, actually. Because I mean, there were times when he was slim and trim, but he's actually like he's built in these. Like he looks solid.
He sure looks like a rowdy astronaut there.
I know, he's very fired up.
Yeah.
Top Gun, making a Top Gun face. Anyways, I just wanted to bring this up because it's not Magic the Gathering related, but it is the world of collectible cards. Not necessarily the kind of cards I thought they were going to be. They're digital cards, but we're in a new world now.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to keep our eyes on these, see what happens.
I'm interested to see, the price trajectory.
Interesting economic experiment.
I think you can follow these too. You can follow the price trajectory. I don't know, since they're NFTs, I think all the NFT sales are like present on a blockchain or something. I think this is how people are assessing the secondary market, seeing whether or not they were a good investment. $99. I wonder how many were on the market. I don't know if that exists. I don't know enough about the blockchain. I don't know enough about NFTs, but things like Bitcoin, there's a limited number ever produced. You know exactly how many are produced. I don't know if the same thing is true for everything that's on a blockchain. If you know the number that were originally created, if you can see that as well as the transactions. I don't know how much you know about the blockchain world, the NFT world, the crypto world. Yeah, it's not something that I get involved in.
I've read that these are not actually NFTs though, technically, or something like that, because I don't know. I'm not.
He says Trump digital trading card NFTs. Are you telling me they wouldn't be honest about whether or not these things were truly NFTs? Win one of 25 incredibly rare gold digital trading card NFT, Alex. Are you telling me it's fungible?
No.
He's clearly stating that it's a non-fungible token. Are you making the statement that the 45th president is actually selling something that is fungible when he's stated clearly that it is non-fungible?
No, I don't think it's fungible.
Okay, good. Better watch your mouth. I don't know exactly what makes something an NFT, Alex. I can't tell you.
Neither do I.
Other than it has to be non-fungible.
Yes.
That's enough of that. Now we're going to go.
It certainly is.
We're going to get into actual Magic the Gathering news. It's not news. We're just going to discuss Magic the Gathering. I, Alex, am building decks, as you know. I'm building mostly decks that are pre-modern legal because that's the era of cards that I enjoy. And, you and I quit like towards the very beginning of the pre-modern legal sets. So there's still a lot for us to discover in the pre-modern world. Like everything after Weatherlight, I didn't really know about at all until we started talking about Magic again, 6 months ago. So I'm starting simple with the decks I built. I started building like a green stompy deck, a 10-land stompy deck. I'm very creature focused at the moment because those are fairly easy decks to build and play. And now that I've got my green deck built, I wanted to build a red deck. I was going to just build a burn deck because, again, they're cheap and easy to play. Cheap to build, easy to play. And most of the cards in the burn deck I was familiar with. But some other things in the pre-modern space caught my eye. I've decided to forego the burn deck and build another type of red deck. Alex, I am going to build a goblin deck. And I am on the record, I think publicly on this podcast, early episodes podcast, slandering goblins. I may have called them uncouth. I may have called goblin decks boring. I don't know what else I said about the goblin decks.
I don't remember.
But I never liked goblin decks that much back in the day. I did feel like they were kind of boring. I wasn't really that into tribal decks. I don't even remember what kind of decks you played or what kind of cards you played.
The pool for tribal decks was so shallow, though.
It was small.
It was like you couldn't really make most tribal decks.
It was small. So back in the day, if you were going to play goblins, what were you going to play? Goblin King, Goblin Wizard.
Played them with direct damage a lot of the time. Played them with Goblin Grenades.
Goblin Grenades. Mog Fanatic existed when we were still around. Goblin Balloon Brigade. Mons Goblin Raiders. Nothing particular exciting, right? It was just a lot of little creatures. But after we stopped, like post Weatherlight, there were all sorts of badass goblins that were printed. Goblins that have all sorts of synergy with each other. And the synergy makes it a lot more fun to play the goblins deck compared to the goblin decks back in the day, in my opinion. So I've been putting together a list of pre-modern legal goblins, and I'm going to talk about some of them today, Alex. The ones I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to call the starting lineup. These are the goblins that I think I would include in all of my goblin decks. And then in a later episode, we're gonna talk about spicy goblins. Goblins that you just might want to sprinkle in to add something a little bit more fun to your deck to play, something unexpected that it's unexpected, so your opponents aren't going to be expecting it. It makes the game more fun, makes the game more exciting. But today we got the starting lineup. So I'm also going to point out, I forgot to mention this. There was a recent I Play Magic video that I watched. I Play Magic is a YouTube channel. And it was just a quick summary of the pre-modern meta, the current pre-modern meta for 2023. But it was really the most popular decks in pre-modern in 2022. And goblins came in at number 1. It was the most commonly played deck in pre-modern. And I think it's because it's fun to play, it has a pretty good win rate, and it's incredibly affordable. At least compared to all of the other top decks. So if you want to build something competitive on a budget, at least in the pre-modern space, goblins are a good way to go.
Neat.
You know, like the other most popular tribal deck is the elves deck, and it runs Gaia's Cradles. It's like it's already unaffordable to most people. For goblins, you don't need any $1,000 lands in order to smash your opponents. But let's get back into the starting lineup. The first goblin I think I'm going to include in all of my pre-modern goblin decks is Mog Fanatic. So Mog Fanatic, you remember this guy, Alex? Everybody knows Mog Fanatic.
I have them in my old goblin deck from back in the day. They came out, and I remember, we were very impressed when this card came out because it was, like we were saying, there weren't too many goblins available. Most of them were just kind of generic, did nothing. They either were like a bland 1/1 or 2/2 or something, or they had some sort of dumb drawback that made you not want to use them.
Yeah.
But this guy is really awesome.
I can't remember what 1-drop goblins were around before Mog Fanatic, but it was what Balloon Brigade.
You mentioned some of them, yeah. Balloon Brigade, Mons Goblin Raider. Raiders. Goblins of the Flarg, I think, is one.
That was the next one. Yeah.
2 casting cost. I can't remember.
I was going to mention that guy too. I'm pretty sure Goblins of the Flarg is 1 casting cost.
Yeah. But it's nothing special.
From the dark. Yeah. It was nothing special. But Mog Fanatic, it was a common, first printed in Tempest. It's a 1 casting cost, summon goblin, 1/1. But it has the ability to do 1 damage to target creature or player when you sacrifice it. It's currently very cheap. You can get the original for 32 cents. It's been reprinted a bunch of times in a bunch of other sets. Unfortunately, it doesn't work as well now as it did back in the day. Now that they've made the changes to damage no longer being on the stack. But it's still cool. You can still use it to do direct damage to something. You can still use it to ping a Bird of Paradise or a Land of War Elves. Back in the day, if somebody attacked with a 1/1, you could block their 1/1 with your Mog Fanatic. Then you could also sacrifice it to do 1 damage to them, or to ping one of their other 1/1s, like a Bird of Paradise, knock it out of the air or whatever. Or you could block a 2/2, block it in combat, and then also sacrifice it to do a 2nd point of damage to like take out a 2/2. You can't do that any longer.
Mm-hmm.
But
were we technically even allowed to do that back then? I know we did that, I think, but
everybody did it. I think you could. If you think about the fact that damage used to go on the stack, how would this work on the stack? Somebody attacks with their Land of War Elves. You block with the Mog Fanatic. They each do 1 damage to one another, but then you say, I'm sacrificing my Mog Fanatic to ping your Bird of Paradise. Well, that would then be on the top of the stack. That ability would then be on the top of the stack. So it would ping the Bird of Paradise, and then the damage from combat would resolve. So you would kill their elf and your Mog Fanatic would die. So I think technically it used to be the correct way to do it. If I'm thinking about this correctly, if I'm thinking about the stack correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were right in the way we used to play it. This is how everybody else played it too. I haven't come across a comment yet that somebody made saying, oh yes, people used to play it that way, but it was incorrect.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Everything I've read about it so far.
Okay, you see people referencing that, those what I'm saying, like people talking about it that way.
Yep. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Cool.
So, there are a lot of people who I haven't interacted with. So there's probably a lot of people saying a lot of things. But I haven't come across anybody who said that, yeah, you shouldn't have been playing it that way in the past.
Okay.
Everything I've read so far indicates to me that, yes, it was correct to play it that way in the past, but it can no longer be played that way because of the change in the rules stating that damage is no longer put on the stack.
Right. Okay.
So Mog Fanatic.
Still good. And still, versatile. Like, I mean, there's lots of other stuff today, but like back then it was still like, you don't even really need to have a goblin deck to make this like a useful card. Like you can just include this in a red deck or something.
Oh yeah, I ran it at all my red decks. And I think actually people still run it in slide decks today, in like burn decks.
Oh yeah.
I think they'll run like Mog Fanatics and Jackal Pups as their one drops.
Yeah.
And then next
Jackal
to that,
Pup was popular.
yeah, then in addition to that, some people run ball lightnings, and then they'll have their deck full of direct damage. But this is a pretty common card still in burn decks. It's also a good way to finish out the game. Like if you brought your opponent down to just like 1 or 2 life, but then you're late in the game and you're stuck there with like a bunch of 1/1s and they have like bigger blockers and you just
Yeah.
can't get through, you just sack your Mog Fanatic to finish them off. So yeah, it still has a lot of great use cases. The next one. This is one that didn't exist when we were playing back in the day. But now it's a staple of pre-modern Goblin decks. I wonder if it's a staple in Goblin decks in all sorts of formats too. I would assume it is because it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's good.
This has been, I've heard this called the best first turn play in pre-modern. It is Goblin Lackey. It is an uncommon that was first printed in Urza Saga. Has a casting cost of 1 red. It's a summon goblin. It's 1/1. And whenever Goblin Lackey successfully deals damage to a player, you can choose a goblin card in your hand and you put that goblin directly into play. So it currently has a market price of $16.93. It's not cheap.
Yeah, for an uncommon. Yeah.
For an uncommon. It's not reserve list. I'm surprised they haven't
been reprinted.
I know it's kind of
Secret Lair and from the vault.
Kind of crazy. You would expect. I mean, if this gets to be much more expensive, they've got to reprint it.
I'm just going to say, don't invest. Don't invest.
Well,
they will reprint the. Well, I don't know. Maybe they. I don't know. It's. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I did pick some up because I needed them. I need them for my Goblin deck, Alex. I can't live without Goblin Lackeys in my Goblin deck. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that you would expect them to probably reprint one day in large numbers. So far, like you noted, it's just been in small sets. There was a secret layer. I looked into the secret layer because I wanted to find cards that were reprinted in secret layer that had particularly cool art. And I was thinking maybe I'll pick up the secret layers instead of the original printings. It all depends on which art I prefer.
Right.
But I wasn't too into the secret layer.
Love that
for the goblins. No, they reprinted a series of goblins. I can't remember which ones. We'll come across them later, I'm sure, when we talk about the others. But I don't know what this art style is. I don't know if it's just this particular artist style or if it's like reminiscent of a video game that I'm not familiar with.
I'm sure it has a technical name, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
It's looks sort of like cell shade artwork, kind of like that, but it's, I don't know.
Did you say cell shade?
Yeah.
What does that refer to?
Cell shade is like, I'm not going to be able to explain it correctly, but it's like, with like, I think it comes from, like animation where they would like draw on like a clear template,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
But like, if you just search, I don't know, if you search cell shade art, it's probably like.
I kind of know what you're talking about. I have this vision of, like you said, like a cellophane with some sort of coloring and laid over something, almost like a overhead projector type of pane. Are we thinking of the same thing? Let me just do this. I have a computer in front of me. Cell shading.
Yeah.
Cell shade art.
It says it's a type of non-photorealistic rendering designed to make 3D computer graphics appear to be flat by using less shading color.
Okay.
It's used to mimic the style of comic book or cartoon and render or give the render a characteristic paper-like texture. But yeah, like I didn't know that, but like the style of it, yes, is like, old cartoon or comic book or it's like a flat kind of like cartoony.
Okay. This is what I was looking for, images. These probably aren't the best images. Anyways. That's Goblin Lackey. I mean, it's pretty amazing. If you get this out and your opponent doesn't have anything to block it on turn 2 when you're able to block, I mean, you can start dropping 5 drops, 6 drops, all, creatures of any size from your hand, putting them directly into play. And then by turn 3, your opponent's in trouble. There are a couple cards I'll talk about later, which are really good targets for the Lackey.
I was going to ask if you have some big goblins in mind, because again, back in the day, like there were not too many options for that. Like there were probably a couple, but again, with like downsides,
Yeah,
like
I don't know what you'd put out.
bad upkeeps or inabilities to attack if the opponent has other creatures or things like that.
I can't even think of big goblins. Can you think of any big goblins? Old school big goblins?
I can. I'm remembering like an image of one, but I can't remember what it's called. It's like some big like goblin-y guy from like Ice Age or something, and he like, I don't know, he had some dumb thing like he couldn't attack if they had creatures. One of those kind of things. Like,
Yeah, big
it's some drawback.
I'll try to find some. Maybe we'll do this follow-ups for next week. Try to find some
just
big.
Weren't too many goblins. I don't know. There weren't too many options back in the day.
Some big old school goblins. But that's the Lackey. Definitely one of my favorites. One of the most fun
that's
to
awesome.
play.
I assume there's sorry, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I assume there's good targets for it now, better targets for it now, but
yes.
To get to that. So
the next badass goblin, and this actually would be a good one to buy at this point. It's not anywhere near like an all-time high. The next starting lineup goblin for my Premodern Goblin deck, Alex, is Goblin Pile Driver. I don't know if you've come across this guy yet.
No.
Goblin Pile Driver is a rare. It was first printed in Onslaught. Has a casting cost of 1 colorless, 1 red. It's a summon goblin. It is 1/2. It has protection from blue, which means it can't be red elemental blasted. Which people love to load up on like red elemental blast and blue elemental blast on their sideboard to deal with,
very strong card.
Monocolor decks. Whenever Goblin Pile Driver attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking goblin.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, this is pretty good.
Just fits right in a goblin deck. I love that it's protection from blue. That's cool. Play with some cards to give it like trample or.
Goblin decks love going wide. Goblin decks love token generation. Love putting out a lot of 1 drops, 2 drops. So the Goblin Pile Driver can get really big, really fast.
Here I found something. I found an example of what I was talking about. Look up Goblin Mutant from Ice Age.
I don't remember.
I remember this card.
Goblin Mutant.
I found it pretty quick when I pulled up Ice Age here.
I remember the art. Yeah. You can pick these up for 16 cents. 2 colorless, for good 2 reason. Red. He has 3 heads. He has his normal head, and then he has heads on his shoulders as well.
Armpit head and a shoulder head.
Yeah. 2 colorless, 2 red, 5/3 trample. Cannot attack if defending player controls an untapped creature with power greater than 2. Cannot be assigned to block any creature with power greater than 2. So for the most part, I mean, he's going to be just sitting there a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You can use him to throw at your opponent with Goblin Bombardment, I think. Let me type in Goblin Bombardment. Sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So you can play this guy and then throw him for 1 damage. Let me think. So like, let's say you get the Lackey out, right? Turn 1. You attack with him turn 2. He's not blocked because your opponent doesn't have any creatures. Then you drop the Goblin Mutant. So then he has to sit there until turn 3. You have to hope that on turn 3, your opponent doesn't play anything bigger than a 1-drop.
Yeah. Or you have to have something else, another combo element to like reduce opponent's creature's power.
Yes. Either way, terrible.
use it with some sort of board wipey type thing that, yeah. But then what does it matter that it has trample then? It kind of defeats the purpose of it that it like,
It does.
you know what I mean? Like
does.
it's a weird card design.
I know.
Like, yeah.
Somebody was screwing with us. Whoever designed this card was just screwing with us.
Yeah.
Their goal was to make 13-year-old Alex and Steve like pissed off when they pulled this out of a pack.
Oh yeah, and it worked. What the hell is this crap? I'm never going to use this.
It was reprinted in Deckmasters Garfield versus Finkel. That means that these guys must have played it in one of their.
Okay, all right. So yeah, they had some. You know, so like if you use this with something that lets you like some board condition or spell that lets you attack with things when they come into play. What is that, haste now?
Yeah.
So now it becomes effective to like bring it out really early in the game, I guess. But
then still, you gotta. It's only helpful if your opponent doesn't have anything bigger than 2. I got to look up. We got to figure out what these Deckmasters Garfield versus Finkel were, because a lot of times these were just like sometimes you'll see a tournament winning deck, like a world championship deck, and you'll see some weird card in it from Homelands or something. And then you just got to remind yourself that like they put rules in place at that time because nobody wanted to play Homelands cards. So like they put rules in place in certain tournaments saying like your deck had to include like at least 2 or 3 Homelands cards to force people to play them.
Really?
Yeah. So you'll look at this championship deck and you'll be like, what the hell they play this card for? Is because they were forced to play a Homelands card.
Well, I know this thing, this Garfield Finkel, I think, yeah, they like had to pick from like, they had to build it out of like Ice Age.
Yeah. This could have been like a draft tournament or something.
It was sort of like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Giant Trapdoor Spider. I need a spider deck, Alex.
Spider deck?
Yeah, this just inspired me. Giant Trapdoor Spider. 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 green. 2/3. Remove.
It's like spiders
from the game. Giant Trapdoor Spider and target creature without flying that's attacking you. That's kind of fun.
They always have that ability. In Magic, they always have spiders. Always have that like able to block creatures with flying ability.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting, like theme.
Well, this one doesn't, but it yanks a guy. It yanks a guy right off the ground.
Oh,
this is a non-flyer. A creature without flying that's attacking you. Grabs him by the feet.
Yeah. Sorry,
pulls him down through the trapdoor.
It doesn't do that, but other spiders do. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
This is good. This is really good flavor wise.
Yeah, definitely. I always like trapdoor spiders. They're pretty cool. What was the other? I think it was another Ice Age spider. I used it a lot because it could block creatures with flying. It had like a built-in web ability, I think, where like if it blocked a creature with flying, it got +0/+2.
Can't remember.
Some kind of spider.
Ice Age. We're supposed to be talking about goblins, but now I'm talking about spider decks.
We're going down the rabbit hole.
The spider hole. Ice Age spiders. This is probably, I should do MTG. Woolly Spider, of course. Woolly Spider, I remember this being a good card. This was a big blocker. I mean, good relative, but Woolly Spider, 1 colorless, 2 green. Summon Spider can block creatures with flying. If Woolly Spider is assigned to block a creature with flying, Woolly Spider gets +0/+2 until end of turn, 2/3. So this is a Sarah Angel blocker. This is why you would play this guy back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's pretty much why I played it, because like
Sengir blocker, Sarah blocker,
Sarah Angels. Yeah, it has like the web spell built into it, basically.
Yes, not a bad card at all.
It was a good card.
No, it is,
and it was cheap.
Yeah, I like it.
Is it a common or a common?
Common. Ice Age common. I like the Woolly Spider. But that was Goblin Pile Driver.
Not Woolly Spider. That was not Woolly. That was Goblin Pile Driver.
Yeah, Goblin Pile Driver gets real.
He's good.
Goblin Pile Driver gets real big, real fast. I've seen it. I've watched it happen, Alex. I've seen it with my own eyes. The next goblin I want to talk about that's going to be in my Premodern Goblin starting lineup is Goblin Matron. I like the Matron also.
Goblin Matron.
I like the Matron very much. So the Goblin Matron was a common originally printed in one of the Urza's Saga.
Okay.
And still very cheap. You can pick up the originals for $1. Have you seen the Matron, Alex?
No.
No.
Maybe.
The
Hold on.
The Matron is 2 colorless, 1 red, summon goblin, 1/1. When Goblin Matron comes into play, you may search your library for a goblin card. If you do, reveal that card, show everybody, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So it's a goblin tutor. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a 1/1 goblin for 3, which isn't great, but it's a tutor.
Right.
And with these days, and in these days, in the times that we live in now, Alex, with the pre-modern goblins, they have all sorts of like cool additional abilities. You can use your goblin matron to tutor for a goblin that has whatever ability you might need at this particular moment to get you out of a jam.
Yeah.
There's a lot of toolbox goblins that can be used to pick off other creatures, goblins that can be used to destroy artifacts and stuff. I'm not going to talk about any of those today, but I will be talking about them in the next goblin episode, where I talk about more flavorful goblins, toolbox goblins. This goblin, still part of the starting lineup, and I want to use her to tutor for my toolbox goblins.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I like the matron very much. Very cheap,
I like her.
Very affordable. The next goblin, Alex. Goblin Ringleader. This is another goblin that is a star in the pre-modern goblin decks. It was first printed in Apocalypse, and it's also very cheap. It was what was it? It was an uncommon in Apocalypse. It has a casting cost of 3 colorless, 1 red, summon goblin, 2/2. So it has haste. It can attack and tap the turn that comes into play. When the Ringleader comes into play, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You put all goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. So this is very good.
That's awesome.
This is card advantage in goblins. Card advantage.
It works really well with the previous guy, the pile driver.
Yeah. Because then you're just playing goblins. You're playing goblins
lackey.
every turn.
I meant lackey. Right.
Well, that too. Yeah, it works. It works well.
It works. Goblins all synergize. But yeah, I like how this, like with Goblin Lackey, you can bring this into play and attack with it.
Yes. Yeah, because it has haste. Yeah. You play, so turn 1, Goblin Lackey. Turn 2, you attack with Lackey. It gets through. You drop a Ringleader. It can attack that same turn, and then also you potentially put up to 4 goblins into your hand.
You can't do 2 attack phases though, right?
That's true. Never mind. You just screwed up my friggin' plan.
I'm sorry.
Whatever.
As soon as I started to say it, I was kind of like, oh, but then your attack would already be done because you attacked the Goblin Lackey. So the fact that it's haste doesn't matter. So never
Good thing you caught that, Alex. The viewers would have been angry. They would have been yelling at me. They would have been in the comments being like,
fools.
Fools.
What's it? You can cast, so you can have 2 sorcery phases before and after your attack phase, but you can only have 1 attack phase, right? You can't. Yeah.
I know you can only have 1 attack phase.
Yeah.
I actually can't remember now if you can play sorceries. Two different.
Yeah, you can play sorceries before and after your attack phase.
But this guy's really good. And this is a reason why when I first started putting together a pre-modern goblin deck, I was putting in like some of the cards that I would just put in any red deck. Like it's, oh, well, you got to play lightning bolts, of course. You got to play some artifact destruction, whatever. And then you start to come across all these pre-modern goblins that synergize with other goblins. And they can synergize with other goblins that have toolbox effects. They can do direct damage. They can destroy artifacts, stuff like that. And you end up like taking out all these cards that you think are auto-include in red decks and then putting in goblins. And then you find yourself with a deck that's literally just full of land and goblins. So then when you play a card like Goblin Ringleader, it's not that uncommon to play this guy, reveal the next 4 cards, and
3 of them
put
are goblins.
3 to 4 in your hand.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then you have like a goblin
That's
and an
interesting.
ancestral recall.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, that like if the way you build your deck, if it's like very, very heavy on the goblins as opposed to having other spells and stuff. Interesting.
I think it's the way to go. When I was testing it, it just seemed to work out much better that way. Especially with the ringleader in play. So this guy,
yeah, it definitely makes sense with that card for sure. That's cool. That's an interesting. Yeah.
This guy's great and he's cheap.
Nice. These are all cheap.
Yeah.
Except for that one.
Except for which one was it? The lackey. The lackey's expensive.
Yeah.
Been reprinted in dual decks. It was in Core Set 2020. I wonder what price. No, it was cheap even before that. You know, $2.
I know.
Went down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I dig.
But Goblin Ringleader, that's one of my favorites. Starting lineup. Auto include 4 ofs. Gotta have the ringleaders, in my opinion. The next goblin that I'm going to include in my starting lineup for a Premodern Goblin deck is Siege Gang Commander.
Three colorless, 2 red.
This guy's a biggie, Alex. So when I was like, oh, there's some, what are you going to play with the lackey?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's some big bodies. I shouldn't have said big bodies necessarily.
But high casting cost.
Because I was thinking of this guy because he himself on his own is not a big body, but he comes with an army.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a high casting cost. It was first printed in Scourge. It's a rare from Scourge. Casting cost of 3 colorless, 2 red, summon goblin. It's only a 2/2, but when Siege Gang Commander comes into play, you put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens into play. So all of a sudden you got 5 damage you could be attacking with next turn. You can also pay 1 colorless, 1 red, sacrifice a goblin. Siege Gang Commander does 2 damage to target creature or player. So you can fling those tokens to do direct damage, to take out creatures, to do direct damage to your opponent.
Yeah.
You play a lackey, you play a Siege Gang Commander, and then you got a pile driver on turn. In the next turn, you attack with 3 tokens, Siege Gang Commander and lackey. That's 5. That means your pile driver can get plus 10.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people just like, this is how you just destroy people in like 4 turns with goblins, which it can happen very easily if you pull the right cards at the beginning. I also like cards like this are why I'm like, why would I don't think I want to play lightning bolts any longer in goblins.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean about like leaning into this kind of strategy instead of
Yes, it's not as good. It's not as efficient as the lightning bolt, which is 1 red for 3 damage. Here you got to play 2 mana for 2 damage. But you also have the ability to attack, to block with these things. So you have the versatility and you have the option to do direct damage with things like Siege Gang Commander, with things like Mog Fanatic that you can sack. If you put a Goblin Bombardment in your deck, you can throw goblins, you can throw tokens to do direct damage. So it's like, I don't know why put in the bolts. This is a question I'm asking myself. I think a lot of people choose not to run them because they just find it to be unnecessary when you consider the number of goblins that you can potentially use to do direct damage to either your opponent or creatures if you need to.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I like this guy. Direct damage capabilities, facilitates the go wide strategy, just something that I made note of. Synergizes in amazing ways with your pile driver. A lot of good reasons to like the Siege Gang Commander. And even with the high casting cost, if you get the lackey out fast, you can play this guy very early in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The last goblin, Alex, I'm going to talk about today that I'm going to include in my starting lineup for my pre-modern goblin decks. The Goblin War Chief. Alex, have you seen the Goblin War Chief?
I'm looking at him now.
This guy's awesome. Let me look. Originally printed in Scourge. So Scourge was big for goblins.
Yeah, has a few.
It is 1 colorless, 2 red. It was an uncommon in Scourge. It's a summon goblin. Goblin spells you pay cost 1 less to play. So you get a couple of these guys out and you're just dropping goblins practically for free. Just goblins flying out the walls. Goblins you control have haste also. So this is another reason it's awesome. You have this guy out. You get through with a lackey, you drop a commander, all of a sudden you got 5 coming your way. You play the pile driver when you already have a group of goblins out. That guy's attacking right away. Gives everything haste, which is amazing for a creature heavy go wide deck like a goblin deck.
Yeah.
And everything's cheaper. You get 2 of these guys out, all of a sudden you're using your matron to tutor essentially for like 1 red, tutoring for goblins for 1 red.
I never think when I see a card like this, like with that effect, I really like the, reduces the casting cost effect, but I never think about stacking them to make them cumulative, which is a good call.
It does. It works that way, right?
I
don't think I'm
so.
making that. Yeah,
it
has to. That's how I use the medallion.
I just never think. I tend to stop there. I just don't think about bringing a second one out.
Other goblins that might be there's this is the last goblin I was going to talk about today for my starting lineup of goblins, but I was torn, Alex. I don't know what to do about this last one. I didn't include him, but let's talk about him anyways.
It's all right.
I want to put this guy in just because.
Throw another goblin on.
Back in the day, I couldn't live with myself leaving this guy out of a goblin deck. I couldn't make a goblin deck without this guy. But there are just so many more goblins that have been printed. I honestly think to myself, do you leave them out? I don't know. I just have a hard time leaving out. How do you leave out Alex? Alex, how do you leave out the king? The goblin king.
Okay.
Tell me, Alex, what should I do? The goblin king, first printed in alpha. Yes, I am going to buy an alpha goblin king for $550,000. I don't know. I don't even know what it says the current market price on MTG stocks for a Goblin King was $449, but I don't even think you can. I don't think you can actually find one anywhere for $500.
Probably not. No, I bet. Yeah.
The average is NA. They sell so infrequently. Goblin King. If people don't know, everybody probably knows what the Goblin King is. It's been around since the beginning of Magic, and it's still reprinted all the time.
One used to be auto include, like you said.
Yeah, 1 colorless, 2 red, 2/2 summon Goblin King. Goblins in play gain Mountain Walk, which is not usually a very big deal, but sometimes could be, and +1/+1 while this creature remains in play. Now that's the big deal.
Mm-hmm.
There are cards that kill goblins, things that just do like, I'm trying to think of the cards that like the board wipe cards that'll do like 1 damage to everything. A lot of them actually do more than 1 damage. Pyroclasm from Ice Age does 2 damage. Let me think. I'm trying to think of these cards that do damage to everything. Pyroclasm, 1 colorless, 1 red sorcery. Pyroclasm deals 2 damage to each creature. So your Goblin King, he comes out, he's 2/2, but he gives himself +1/+1 because he's also a goblin, so he's 3/3. So that's a big body for a goblin. But then he'll also save your 2/2s from things like Pyroclasm. He won't save your 1/1s, but he'll save your 2/2s. If you have 4 Goblin Kings in your deck, you could pump things +2/+2, +3/+3 potentially. I don't know if you play 4 Goblin Kings in the deck though. You'll see.
Oh, so I have to interrupt you because when you said this, I had to look it up because I thought I had read something. They've changed the wording on Goblin King. It now reads, I know. It now reads other goblins get +1/+1 and have Mountain Walk.
I'm about to flip my goddamn table over, Alex. How do you take that away? How do you take that ability away from the king?
I agree.
He's king. You're telling me he can't pump himself 1/1?
It's not what it says on the card. I feel like that, but I believe the reason they did that is to put it in line with Zombie Master and does Lord of Atlantis also? I think they just say other merfolk and zombies get the Lord of Atlantis says other merfolk, Zombie Master says other zombies. So I think they wanted to make it even, but that's not what the card says. I
have not been this angry since earlier in the week when I found out Donald Trump's cards were just going to be digital NFTs and not actual paper cards. Lord of Atlantis, all merfolk gained Island Walk and +1/+1. Like, are you telling me the Lord doesn't give himself +1/+1 also?
Correct. And now it says other merfolk.
I
get
am
+1,
so
+1.
pissed, Alex.
Yeah.
You can't listen. When you consider all the power creep that they've introduced into the game
Right?
over the
Like, why
years,
couldn't they just
why are they neutering
let
these classic
these
cards?
old cards have
Zombie
that
Master,
ability?
all zombies game Swamp Walk. So like
But
they
he's
were
not a
all
zombie. He's a lord.
he's a lord. But he's also a zombie master, so he's also a
He
zombie.
should be a zombie.
You know what? The Lord of Atlantis, this is probably their ruling too, because he's also a lord. And Goblin King, it didn't say Summon King, it said Summon Goblin King.
Yeah.
So here's how they should have errated it. I agree they should be errated. But the errata should be Lord of Atlantis is errated to summon Merfolk Lord. Zombie Master is errated to summon Zombie Lord. And then all three of these cards give themselves +1/+1. I'm writing to Mark Rosewater. I'm submitting to Blogatog. Not a request, but a demand to properly errata Goblin King, Lord of Atlantis, and Zombie Master. Because Alex, you've pissed me off beyond belief right now. By reviewing this.
I hate to do that to you. I didn't mean to cause you to fly into a rage.
These guys, they're already, I mean, they're very fair, even like in a world where they gave themselves +1/+1. They were very
wouldn't
fair.
break them. It wouldn't make them like.
No, they're far from broken.
You know,
they are the kings and the lords of their kind.
Yeah.
You're telling me they can't give themselves +1/+1? I disagree. And since I make my own rules for when I play Magic, I'm going to live in a world where Goblin King continues to give itself +1/+1. And if anybody gets mad when I'm playing with them, I'm just going to tell them they have to deal with it.
Flip the table over.
I'll flip the table over. I want that. I wish I got to have that GIF on standby of the fat kid flipping the table over. Look at the newer Goblin King art.
That's neat.
It is, but it's like
it doesn't look good with that border and frame. Yeah, though. Like it's kind of all washed out and like
I needed to see it in a different border, maybe with different coloration. It looks better in 7th edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, things get too bright.
It's just that frame. It doesn't look good. Man.
9th edition, 10th edition, everything gets too bright. It's funny, isn't it, when it comes to the aesthetics of Magic cards? It's like there are several sets where they printed and the ink just seems like too washed out, too dull. It's not vibrant enough. Homelands, Ice Age, Alliances to some extent. So then you're like, it needs to be more vibrant. When you look at Revised compared to Unlimited, it's like, oh, Unlimited is so much more vibrant, so much more beautiful.
Yeah, Revised is all washed out. Yeah.
So then they make a change and they do something like 4th edition where they make it more vibrant. And then I look at 4th edition, I'm like, it's too vibrant.
Yeah.
I don't like it. So like, I actually like the Revised more than the 4th edition, even though the 4th edition is brighter. And what I didn't like about Revised is it wasn't bright enough. It wasn't vibrant enough.
I know. And I don't know how much of that is like sentimentality or just like being used to those cards.
Yeah.
And then seeing it change. But I think some of it too is just that it's like they've steadily gotten sort of cheaper seeming, like the printing of, like 4th edition, 5th edition, like after Revised, it like there's, I don't know, it seems it's more consistent. It's not as washed out and it's more consistent, but it seems more mass produced too. I don't know. I might be making that up.
I know what you're talking about. But yeah, like I'm not sure why. And I don't think it's just sentimentality. I think there really is. There's like a sweet spot. Colorful enough, vibrant enough, but not too vibrant. It does something to my eyeballs. Foglio illustrated a Goblin King.
Yeah, I like that one. I've seen that
4th edition, 5th edition. That one's pretty cool. This would be badass. They should reprint this with black borders.
Cool. Yeah, that would be sweet with black border.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny you brought up Goblin King here at the end because what I was just about to say was it's interesting that in your starting lineup picks here, none of them give other goblins bonuses. Like the one gives haste, but they don't really give like +1/+1, which is what I was waiting for. I was waiting to see one of these be like all other goblins get +2/+2, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that there's enough good goblins that work together without even having to use that mechanic.
They have other abilities, they synergize, but yeah, not really +1/+1. It makes me, I can't figure it out. I don't know what to do, Alex. Right now, in what I have put together, I do have a Goblin King.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know if I should keep them. And I want to have more than one Goblin King. But then I'm like, what do I take out?
Right.
Do I take out other starting lineup goblins? These goblins that give haste? These goblins that generate tokens? These goblins that reduce the casting cost of other goblins? I just don't know. I can't figure it out. There's too many good.
You have to play with it for a while until you can figure it out, I guess.
And I think what will happen was I'll go back and forth by putting them in, taking them out, putting them in, taking them out, just depending on whatever mood I'm in. I don't really know.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can Goblin King's good sideboard against people playing with mountains, or you can play. Didn't you say you got a Blood Moon?
Yes, of course. I should play. Yeah, I did get a Blood Moon.
You can play like a Blood Moon variation on this deck.
Yeah, he would be good against anybody playing mountains, just as a sideboard to give that mountain walk. I discount. I made a big dark purchase the other day. Yesterday, actually. Actually, I shouldn't say big. I ordered a lot of cards from the dark for like 20 cents a piece. Because I'm like, there's so many cards from the dark that I don't have it right now that I think like I'm really thinking about old school again. And just building like just a budget ass old school deck that would just be fun to play. There are really like a lot of fun old school cards that I think
there's a lot of cheap cards from like the Dark and Legends and a few of those sets around there that like we never really had because we didn't open up packs.
Yeah.
So, but they'd be fun to play with as long as you had them in the right environment, you know, because they're not very good.
But you know, I'm like, I don't care if. Who cares if it was good?
I'd like to put together. It reminds me. I'd like to put together like an old school cube, like a budget old school cube.
Yes.
And then if you're playing with new people, like people you're trying to teach the game to, you can do draft with stuff that's from like the Dark and Revised, and you know what I mean, from the same era that we started playing in. And it's like a pretty, you know, the basics of the game are there. Nothing's too complicated yet.
It would be a lot of fun. Goblins of the Floor, Dark, Mountain Walk. Goblins of the Floor are buried if controller controls any dwarves. Bro. Nobody plays any dwarves.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe there's some really strong dwarves that people throw in nowadays. But yeah, at least back then, no one played any dwarves. And they don't play dwarf tribal as far as I know of. You might have a dwarf something.
I've actually been thinking about that. I'm like, should I try to build a dwarf deck? I was like, there got to be some dwarves out there. But yeah, I bought a lot of cheap dark cards yesterday for like 15 to 20 to 25 cents a piece because I just started going through the dark commons and I'm like, what don't I have? I'll pick up 2 of these, pick up 2 of those. It would be really fun to, like you said, put together like a popper old school, a cheap old school cube.
Yeah, you could draft from it.
When I first started playing again, I'm like, oh, I can't play old school. I don't have Power 9. And then I thought, I didn't have Power 9 when I was 14 years old either.
Yeah.
And I didn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
And
because how many other people are you going to play against that do? Like
nobody. I mean, if I tried to get involved,
you hit him on the head, you take the Power 9.
Yeah, if I tried to get, I can't do it. I was gonna say if I try to get involved in like competitive old school like webcam play, I can't hit them over the head and steal a Power 9.
That's true.
But you know, I won't do that. Not gonna do that. I don't know, like if in town, I don't know if I started playing with people in town, try to find a group, how many of them would even have those cards?
Yeah, I think the thing is that so many, like very few people play old school at all. I think there's just so many. It's hard to find people that want to play just like old cards like us. But
I see it a lot when I look around online and when I listen to these old school podcasts and stuff, but then I have to remind myself that like the people that I'm watching play in these tournaments online, old school tournaments, the people that I'm listening to that run these old school podcasts, this is an incredibly tiny subset of people who have like been dedicated to old school Magic the Gathering for like decades now. And yes, they have the Power 9. Yes, they have moats and abysses and multiples of every Legends rare and Arabian Nights rare, but they are such a small number of people that these are like the super fans of old school Magic the Gathering. It's a very dedicated, tiny, specific group of people. There's a whole other world of people out there that aren't going to be running podcasts, aren't going to be traveling around the country and sometimes to Europe to play in old school tournaments, that just play old cheap cards from the dark and old cheap cards from Legends.
Yeah. Or they have their old collections like us that has, you know, a handful of kind of expensive cards, but like, you know, nothing crazy.
They don't have decks that are worth $100,000.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have that to play old school Magic. That's why I need to find more people online and people in real life who like to do that. Just play cheap old school Magic, budget old school.
Well, the good thing is you can always kind of start your own format with people, and you know, as long as you find people to play with and want to do the same thing.
But I think there's probably a lot of opportunity for that, because most old Magic cards really are cheap. People think of old Magic cards and like, oh, it's too expensive. Very few. The rares, the ones that were $200 back when we were kids, are now 5,000 to 10,000 or whatever. But it's like most of them are still 25 cents to under $10.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And we can make decks out of them now. We couldn't have made decks out of them back in the day. We could have when we were 14. We would have had to spend an awful lot of time on text-based message boards, like trying to hunt down play sets of all of these cheap commons.
Yeah, it's easier to buy.
But now, I can literally just log on a TCG player like I did last night and order like 70 commons from the dark for like 20 cents a piece. That's awesome. Is what I did.
Awesome.
But yeah, I got some good Goblins of the Flarg.
These were an auto include back in the day. They're a 1/1 for 1 mana with a special ability, which, like we've talked about, is like, that's already kind of good. Like things, a lot of stuff was just a vanilla 1/1 for 1.
And you know what helped me make the decision about whether or not I wanted to buy Goblins of the Flarg?
What's that?
Reprinting Chronicles, which means it's pre-modern legal, which means I can bust out an original Dark Goblins of the Flarg.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody's going to be expecting it.
They won't.
And then they're going to be like, why are you playing that instead of Goblin Pile Driver? And I'll be like, just shut up.
Just shut up.
Just shut up and take this 1 damage.
You just have to build around it more. You know, now put some things in your deck that, like, you know, if the creature gets through and does damage, it has an effect. Like it makes them discard. You know, you put like an enchantment on your Goblins of the Flarg that makes them discard when it gets through, or something. What's
that going to be? Then I'm building a really weird Goblin deck.
Yeah. It's in the Blood Moon Mountain Walk Goblin deck. You have some effects in there that, like, because it's small creatures, but when they get through, they have something good that they do. You know.
Well, this is part of the reason I want to build a Goblin deck too, because I'm going to start just building a red Goblin deck, but it's easy to splash in a different color to a Goblin deck. Spice it up a little bit. Like a lot of the competitive Goblin decks I see in pre-modern, most of them are red-green.
Oh, really?
And I think they tend to throw in green for Naturalize, which is like that green disenchant. I don't know if you remember Naturalize. It didn't exist. Oh, I love Naturalize.
I've probably seen this.
Naturalize is why I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going mono green, because it's literally just a green disenchant.
Don't need just disenchant anymore.
Yeah, it was printed in
Onslaught
first. Yeah, it's 1 colorless, 1 green.
Click on the Onslaught one. Oh, you did.
Destroy target artifact or enchantment instant. Literally a disenchant. So there are
disenchant. Stepping on toes.
There are so many cards or so many decks in pre-modern that are like heavy on enchantments and artifacts. And if you have no way to get rid of them, like you're just screwed. If you're playing a mono color deck and you can't get rid of them, you're screwed. But now you build a mono green, you could include for Naturalize in your main board. You could put additional
I have to get some of these
artifact hate in your. So I'm thinking my mono green right now, I'm building it with at least 2 Naturalize in the main board. Might change it to 4 because there's so many artifacts and enchantments. There's always something to hit with it seems like. But But if not, I'll just put 2 in the sideboard, and then include some scavenger folk in the sideboard too. So mono green deck, my mono green deck, all mono green decks are full of like 1-drops. But if you're playing a real heavy artifact opponent, you take out some of your 1-drop green cards, swap them with scavenger folk. Then you have like 8 ways, if you put in the naturalized, to get rid of their artifacts.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
For sure.
Why did I bring up naturalized? Oh, because this is the reason why a lot of people run red-green goblin decks, just
to get that in there.
Just to put in.
Well, this is literally what we did back in the day. Like, if you didn't really want to be playing white necessarily, you would splash white in for disenchant and for swords to plowshares.
That's why white was in every deck that I played. It was swords and disenchant.
Those 2 cards in every deck, and I threw in something to generate some white mana. Dual lands, Birds of Paradise, a Mox or 2.
Yeah. The other, I never had a Mox when you were fancy.
I don't have it anymore though.
Not to brag, Mox or 2, sometimes 7. What was I going to say? Oh, and then the other goblin variant that I see all the time is red black.
Yeah,
they do the zombie goblins.
Yeah, and we talked about this because of this card, Drowned News Crusade,
which I'll do at some point because it's fun. You don't need your Goblin King when you do this, because all goblins get +1/+1, are black, and are zombies in addition to their creature types. And it's a cheap card, $1.30. It's going up. Now is the time to get into Drowned News Crusade. It's going to the moon.
Holy cow!
It's gone from 50 cents to $1.30 in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I bought one of those over the summer, maybe 2.
It's reprinted and Dominaria Remastered. So now it's going to crater.
Oh, is it?
It's going to go back to 50 cents.
I guess we mentioned that the other day. I guess I remember now.
Yeah, we saw it.
Was it the same art?
I think so.
I think it was the same art.
I think so too. I don't know if the art's popping up yet here on MTG stocks. Yeah, it's great out. But I'm pretty sure it's the same art. I can't remember what the extra was.
Look at that graph, since it's so early. Like, it just looks like a chunk.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what price this is going to sell for. It could sell for $1. It could sell for 49 cents. Anywho, Alex, those are my starting lineup goblins.
I like
Goblin King may or may not be in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
If I went red-black gobbos, zombos, zombie gobbos, aka gabagools, I definitely want to play Goblin King because I just played Drowned News Crusade, and that gives everything +1/+1.
Yeah. Plus, then it synergizes with things that give you zombies +1/+1, which I think there's a fair amount of too. So
yes.
I keep forgetting the one zombie that is really sweet and boosts things, and it's like a big zombie mutant thing. It's like rah. It's not called zombie mutant.
I don't know. Is it called raw?
I swear you sent me a picture that had like one in the background. It was like of cards you had bought, and there was like one on the table.
I don't know. I bought this guy, and I might put him into some of my zombies. He's a zombie avatar. Power and toughness equal to a number of zombies in play plus a number of zombie cards in all graveyards.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I can't think of.
I'll get back to you on it. I don't know how I'm going to find it.
Side note: what happens to guys like this when their power and toughness are equal to some? Oh, you know what? In all graveyards, I won't have to worry about it. Let's pretend like this guy just said zombies in play.
Okay.
Somebody kills all. Let's say you have 3 zombies in play plus Soulless one, which is also a zombie. So he's 4/4.
4/4.
Let's say somebody kills 3 of the zombies.
Uh-huh.
Is this guy then 0/0 and then he goes to the graveyard, or is he star and he just sits there and unable to do anything? I think he goes to the graveyard, right?
He'd be 1/1 because he's a zombie.
Oh, I'm so stupid, Alex. God damn it! I have to cut that.
Although that brings up an interesting question though. That is sort of weird because if he's the only zombie, you know what I mean? Can he? Yeah, that's weird. That's making my head hurt. No.
Well, no, he would be +1. He would be +1.
1/1 by himself. But if you got the stars to 0, he would die.
Yes,
I believe. That's how that always worked.
I thought so too. Okay. Okay, Alex. We went to goblins. We went to other things. Spiders. We went to zombies. We went to something else I can't remember. But I'm done with the zombies. I mean, I'm done with the goblins, and I'm also done with the zombies. I think that's all I have for today. I just wanted to talk about these introductory zombies.
Cool. I have a couple financial dips and spikes, dips and blips. I need something right.
Ooh, great.
That's dips. It sounds good.
That's because I was thinking yesterday, I haven't been paying attention to like price changes. I wonder what's currently available for a good price that I might not be thinking about. Or it may be trending in a good direction.
Yeah. None of this is really major stuff. It's just kind of weird stuff, but some of them are interesting. So I figure I'll bring them up. First in the spikes, Tika's Dragon from Mirage. Remember that card?
It's an artifact dragon, right?
Yeah, artifact dragon. Rampage.
It's a reserve list dragon. I spelled it wrong, but
reserve list.
Oh. What's happening here? Is it a big mover this week?
I don't know. Yeah. This week it's.
You did say spikes, yeah.
Let's see.
Tika's Dragon. 9 colorless, 5/5 artifact creature with flying, trample, and rampage 4. And then they explain what rampage 4 means here. For each creature assigned to block it beyond the first, this creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Tika's Dragon counts as a dragon. Nobody ever blocks with more than one creature. Very rarely it happens. But there are things you can do to force them to block.
You can force them. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. So there was a post about this on Reddit. Someone said they think it's maybe just another like reserved list type, like, whatever. Someone else mentioned that it is sort of viable in a certain deck, and I can't even remember what the deck was called or what it does, but then some other people said, there's some cards that are kind of better, so I'm not sure why you'd really play this in that deck. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find the post here on the fly.
This is a Mirage rare that it was just $1 to $2 forever.
Yeah.
And then when everything
went
crazy,
when it first came out, I think when Mirage was, fresh, this was, I don't want to call it a chase card, but I think it was sort of like a bit of a chase card. Excuse me.
What was I going to say? Oh, and then around 2020, 2021, when everybody's crypto was at its peak and the stimulus checks were rolling in, this really spiked. It 5x'd. Got up to as high as like $11-12. This was clearly just people doing reserve list buyouts, reserve list insanity. And then it was dropping. Somebody decided they didn't like the fact that it was dropping, so they were going to try to spike it again. Okay, I really wonder how many people in this world right now are sitting on like 173 copies of Tika's Dragon. Because
there are probably several that have there are probably some people that have a big stack of these. They bought them as a joke or a meme when they were cheap, or because they got ahead of that reserve list spike or whatever. But yeah, there's probably a lot of them. Look how easy it's been to find grinning totems, for gosh sake.
Alex. Don't talk.
Sorry, I mean nothing about grinning totem.
I really can't figure out what the end game is here for these people, these buyout people.
Okay, this says, so in that post I found it, someone said Tika's Dragon seems like fringe playable in Megatron Tyrant or other dragon commanders. I have a Megatron deck, but Tika's Dragon doesn't make the cut. That was Spiral 813 from Reddit.
Shout out to Spiral 813.
Apparently, Megatron. I guess you could maybe put it in some kind of dragon deck that I don't really know about. But
Megatron Tyrant, he said?
Yeah.
This is
what's he do? He's a transformer, obviously.
This is a freaking transformer.
Transformer. Let's do.
No. 3 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. Legendary artifact creature robot, aka transformer. More than meets the eye. 1 for 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. You may cast this card converted for 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, 1 black. Your opponents can't cast spells during combat. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may convert Megatron. If you do, add colorless for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn.
Okay.
It's 7/5. I'm so angry, Alex.
Right. And
I'm so angry about everything.
Does this mean it's a double-sided card? convert, I think. You flip it
I have
over.
no, I have no
There's another
idea.
card on the back, I think.
I don't know why it says you may cast this card converted.
Look around on here, see if there's a link to like the other side of the card.
Do I
don't
want to know?
Maybe I'm wrong.
This version of Megatron Tyrant doesn't even have that statement about converted on it.
Oh, really?
The shattered glass variant just says more
Yeah.
than meets the eye. Oh, so it's the same thing. It just doesn't explain.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the rules text for it.
Alex, why is there such a thing as a Megatron Tyrant?
I don't know,
Dragon
Steve.
deck?
I don't know. I love Transformers, but I just I don't. They're just slapping a crossover, just everything, crossover for everything. It's going to become not special really quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I just don't find it to be that fun in a Magic environment.
Yeah, it ruins the immersion of the universe. Yes. I think like you have a system going where, there's elves and there's demons and there's, various weird things that they've made up just for the Magic
dragons
universe.
And
there's genies,
artificers like that make artifact dragons and
Yep. There's its own universe, and I'm not saying
Alex,
I completely hate them. You don't have to play with them, but if you play other people, they're gonna play with them sometimes, and it just kind of whores out the whole thing to me.
Did Urza make Megatron? Maybe. Okay.
So anyways, he flips over and turns into Megatron Destructive Force, where he is a tank. You can see him as the tank on Megatron Destructive Force. He's a legendary artifact vehicle for 5, living metal. As long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. When he attacks, you may sacrifice another artifact. If you do, he deals damage equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value to target creature. Here's where we're going. If excess damage would be dealt to that creature, instead that damage is dealt to that creature's controller, and you convert Megatron back to his other form. So people are using this with Tika's Dragon because it has 9 casting cost.
Yeah, and you want to get
you slap him hard.
Is that why Colossus Sardi has been spiking for the last 5 years?
No, it's been going on longer than that. Colossus of Sardi is still just someone's project, I think.
I'm in now, Alex.
Up and down too. It's every week it's on there like up or down, up or down.
I'm in. I'm fully in on the Transformers now because I can build them into my Colossus of Sardia deck.
Okay, Megatron Colossus.
Oh, look, Alex. Ooh. Look at this.
Down a little bit. Person's buyout is failing. He's watching his dreams crumble.
I'm ready to pounce. Almost.
50 copies of Colossus of Sardia going to be valueless.
You know what? These buyouts might have been just part of a general well, no, this one was spiking more than a lot of antiquity stuff, but antiquities are just spiking because people are probably like, oh, we know the Brothers War is coming out. We're gonna buy antiquities. Mm-hmm. And then the Brothers War came out. Now they're selling. Now they're unloading. Just a thought.
Interesting.
Anyways, Tika's Dragon is going up. You too can own a Tika's Dragon, and then you can throw it at your opponent in your Megatron Tyrant deck.
Yeah. Although you missed the boat for buying it because it's up.
It's never too late.
From $6 and something to $18.
It's never too late.
It'll come back down.
Buy at all-time highs because it's just going to go up even more. These things only go up. Cardboard only goes up. It's reserve list. Reserve list cards never come down.
Wait.
This is financial advice.
Tika's Dragon, you get one in a few months. It'll be back down.
It'll just be higher in a few months. Don't listen to Alex.
Okay, next card. This is a much smaller fish. Caltrops.
I like Caltrops.
I'm happy to bring it up because
Goblins.
I think I didn't look at this card before.
The Bane of Goblins. This is why you want to play a Goblin King.
I have seen it because I remember the sort of dorky artwork.
Whoa!
Versus Destiny.
I bought one. I should have bought 35.
Yeah. Still only going for $2 or $3, but it's gone up a lot from whenever it's 3 casting cost artifact. Whenever a creature attacks, Caltrops deals 1 damage to it. So this is great against hordes of small creatures.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what's causing this spike.
Just
exactly.
I mean, it's definitely a playable card, and it was probably an underplayed card because when you at least looking in the pre-modern world, there were so many tribal decks where you have a lot of small creatures. This is a pain in the ass for those decks. Especially like if you're running a goblin deck and you're not running goblin wizard, you got a bunch of 1/1s. This puts a cramp in your strategy. And you know, not a lot of mana to get out. It works well against a lot of things. I'm annoyed that if I wanted to get a playset, I have to spend like $10 for the playset now, as opposed to $1.50.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why this spiked. I don't know if there's some combo that you can use to, I don't know, use it to kill treasure tokens, or if there's just something about like a lot of small tokens right now.
It's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
Late September it started. Just doubling. October, November, December. It's still going. Buy your caltrops now. It will continue to spike. It will be reprinted, but I bet you have another 2 years before it's reprinted in another set. By that time,
at this rate, Steve.
If this trend continues, Alex,
yeah,
this will be up to $50 and you can unload it right before it's reprinted.
Right. Urza's Destiny Uncommon caltrops.
Yes.
I don't think treasure tokens can attack. I'm assuming they can't, because I think they just sit there, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, all I know about treasure tokens are what you told me about treasure tokens. And all I know, and I've probably only remember 10% of what you've told me about them. What I remember is you sack them for mana. They're mana. In my mind, they're just mana, but I
artifact
have no idea.
Tokens that you can sacrifice for mana, but they might have I think they have a toughness stat.
I don't know. I've never played with treasure token. I've never actually even seen a game in which treasure tokens were generated. I'll get to that eventually one day. So caltrops.
I guess maybe not. No, I think it's just a token. It doesn't say it has any it doesn't have stats or anything. It's just an artifact.
I've clearly asked people to stop buyouts of pre-modern legal cards until I've established my positions, until I've purchased my playsets, and they're not listening. So far, you've discussed 2, and they've both been pre-modern playable.
Okay. Well, moving on. The next one, and again, this one confuses me. I don't really know what's going on with this card. Majay Jin. You'll recognize this card from back.
That's a weird one.
In the past, the red-armed, big red-armed guy.
Is it the Arabian Nights one?
Goal. Yes, the Arabian Nights one.
Stubby arms, huge lats. He's got wings, Alex. That's when you know you're really ripped, when you see the wings. Yeah. When you go like this and you do the flex and you can see the lats.
Like a bat.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Are we looking at the Arabian Nights one? Because I'll tell you why.
The Arabian Nights one. He is, let me see, in the weekly.
Hasn't showed up in MTG stocks yet, the spike, but.
Well, I'm looking at their in their weekly interests. They are reporting him going from $66 to $92 plus 38%.
When I see big moves in Arabian Nights, my guess is that it's just somebody looking to see what is still even slightly affordable in Arabian Nights, and they're just going to buy it.
Yeah, and they're just trying to spec on something because it's available.
Which means that I have to get a few of the Arabian Nights cards that I want before it happens to all of them.
I was thinking about getting an Oubliette. Do you know that card? It's like the prison dungeon cell.
I know the art.
You know what?
I know the art.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember
it's been reprinted. It's not a reserve list card, but I guess it remains playable today because of Commander, because it allows you to get rid of their commander, basically like exile him, quasi-exile. It phases out now. They've changed the wording on it, so it makes it phase out. But yeah, people, I guess, like to use it as a commander remover.
Oubliette. Select enchantment. It's an enchantment, a black enchantment. For one colorless, 2 black. Select a creature in play when Oubliette is cast. I select your commander. That creature is considered out of play as long as Oubliette is in play. Hence, the creature cannot be the target of spells and cannot receive damage, use special powers, attack, or defend. All counters and enchantments on the creature remain, but are also out of play. If Oubliette is removed, creature returns to play tap. So eventually, essentially, you're imprisoning their commander in a limbo state.
Yeah,
Can't
or
do
other
anything.
creature.
Or other creature.
Yeah, the new text just says when it enters the battlefield, target creature phases out until Oubliette leaves the battlefield. Tap that creature as it phases out this way. I wonder if we're pronouncing it correctly. Probably not.
I'm gonna say yes. We're going with it.
Yeah, but I mean, the Arabian Nights artwork on that, and it's not the most expensive. It's like 25 or 30 something, I think. That might be one that I'll pick up just to have the old collectible version of it.
$30. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to get rook eggs. I want a play set of rook eggs, and I want the Arabian Night ones. I enjoy rook egg. It's a fun card. It's been reprinted, definitely, but I want the old style. I want like a rook egg chain lightning deck, a rook egg Wrath of God deck. I want a red white deck where I have cards that have protection from red or protection from white or whatever, and I just lay out like board wipes and they stay. Or in the case of rook egg, you lay out the board wipes everything, but then they hatch, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a cool concept.
They're fun to play. They're not going to be winning a whole lot of games, but they're fun to play. And I want Waioli Wolf.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Waioli Wolf was cool. Was it Chronicles or 4th edition reprint?
I don't remember which one it was reprinted in, but I want it for like a mono green. It's good in mono green, old school budget, old school mono green decks. Waioli Wolf, 1 colorless, 1 green, 1/1. Tap to give any creature in play a +1/+1 till end of turn. So you get your Waioli Wolves out, you get your Pendle Havens out. All of a sudden, you're making a big bad, your giant growth and berserking it.
Yeah, looks good on the black border.
It was reprinted in 5th edition and 6th edition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe I should have looked into this Majajin thing a little further. Just goes to show sometimes, you have to look at more sources on some of these, because like they're reporting this going up like a huge amount this week, but I'm not really seeing that. As far as like the graph on TCG Player is different for sure.
Okay. Are they still available for like $50-$60 on TCG Player?
No, they're $90.
Yeah.
But I'm just not sure if they haven't. It seems like according to TCG Player, they've been that much.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it here on MTG stocks too.
Yeah, probably just January. One of these cards that's a function of like not a lot of them being for sale. So when like a small change happens, it like, but there's a fair amount of them. I don't know. I expect that more with those really big, expensive, like old Arabian Nights cards and stuff. Because they like the statistics on this page fluctuate for them like crazy, just because of like posting changes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of ignore that.
Majajin, I do have a revised Majajin, not to brag, card that I never played with.
Wish I had bought an Arabian Nights one for $6 at a card shop back in the day. That would have been sweet.
You could have. More than 10 extra money, Alex.
Actually, I wonder what this would have been like back then. Like price of. I'm looking at some of these Arabian Nights cards, the ones that are, $50 to $200 now or $300, and I'm wondering what they were. They weren't dirt cheap. They weren't
dirt cheap. No, we could have never walked into Hot Shots and bought an Old Man of the Sea for $2.
Yeah.
$5. I mean, that's what they would sell when our buddy BJ would go in and he'd point at the things and his mom would buy the cards. He would always go in and buy he was the one that had like a lot of the old cards.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead.
He went in and he bought a lot of the like old cards that weren't necessarily playable, but he would buy them for like the cool art or the cool flavor quotes, it seemed
right.
Like. So
that's what I was going to say. Weird... He picked a lot of stuff that was, real old, interesting, unusual cards, not necessarily good, but, things like Island Fish Jesconius.
Yes.
And some unusual legends and Arabian Nights cards. And I mean, if he held on to those, good investments for sure.
I have a memory of those being like $2 to $5 in the Hot Shots, but like that wasn't the case for like the Old Man of the Sea or
Fish liver oil was $2 to $5. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like some of this stuff was still more expensive because it like they hadn't had like reprints that had made them worse yet. You know what I mean? Like they were considered, even though those sets were fairly recent, people still considered like Legends and Arabian Nights to be like old cards that were like valuable.
Yes.
You know, so
let's say John bought a Jazam Gin from Hot Shots.
It was $50.
He brought it home. There were actually 2 in the pack. That's what I had a memory of, $50. So let's say Jazam Gin was $50. That was probably the most expensive card from Arabian Nights around this time. It was probably like Jazam and Library.
There might have been 1 or 2 that were more, maybe like Diamond Valley or but not really. Jazam was $50. That was like a top quality, super expensive card.
So a lot of this stuff we probably could have picked up for $15
to $25.
Yeah, 20, 30, $40. That's still like way more. I was like 14. I wasn't.
Yeah, it was a lot back then. That was,
I wanted an Island of Walk. I thought they were cool. I liked the art. It was a weird card. I wasn't going to spend 25, $30 on an Island of Walk when I was 14.
Right. Especially because we were trying to buy like things like dual lands that we needed.
You want to build a deck. You didn't have money to buy like the stuff that you thought had cool art or was kind of funny for $20.
Or it was like a real niche, like some of these could be useful, but they're, in a niche deck, you have to build the deck around them. You can't just like buy, some of these kind of expensive cards, even the good ones, and just like slap them in a deck and everything's awesome. You have to like build around them.
Old Man of the Sea, very fun, very cool art. I wasn't going to spend $20 on Old Man of the Sea when I could play a Control Magic. I could buy for a nickel.
Right. Yeah.
How much was your Alia Kyra when you bought it back in the day?
It was like $40, I want to say.
$40, yeah.
I could be wrong. I might be misremembering, but I want to say it was 40.
That sounds about right.
$42 or something.
So that was the answer. How did this conversation start? We were like, how much did this stuff go for back then?
Yeah. Judging by some of those cards we can remember that were better,
The really cheap stuff, let me say, the commons, Erg Raiders, NAF Asps.
That stuff you get for $1.
Yeah, it was $1 to $5 probably.
Yeah,
a lot of it was probably $1.
Yeah, because no one cared about. It was so early then that still people didn't care about like commons from Arabian Nights. They were still pretty much valueless, like the not good commons. You know what I mean?
But the most expensive cards back in the day from Arabian Nights that we could have got, we would have got them at their cheapest. They still would have been $20 to $50 cards.
Yeah, I think Guardian Beast was probably in like the 30 or 40 range. At least at first.
No, just too much for a teenager.
Yeah, it was
who had no money.
$5 an hour if you were lucky.
Yeah,
working back then.
They've just always been slightly out of our reach, Alex.
I know.
Actually, more than slightly.
I really wanted Guardian Beast too. Guardian Beast is sweet. It's one of my favorite cards from that set.
I was looking at Mirage cards the other day. Actually, it was like a month ago. Because I was like, what Mirage cards do I want that I don't have yet that I could still pick up pretty cheap? And I was reminded of Spectral Guardian, which is a white Guardian Beast, right? 2 colorless, 2 white. As long as Spectral Guardian is untapped, non-creature artifacts cannot be the target of spells or effects. 2/3. Keep them untapped. Non-creature artifacts not be the target of spells or of target of non-creature artifacts not be the target of spells or effects. 2/3 power. Now you got to build a white deck instead of a black deck to put him in.
Right.
Guardian Beast is 3 colorless, 1 black. 2/4. As long as it's untapped, so same as Spectral Guardian. Your non-creature artifacts, same as Spectral Guardian.
Does it say your on Spectral Guardian, or is it just all?
That would be a big difference.
I think it's all. Maybe I'm wrong.
That changes everything, Alex. The art's not as cool. It just says, it says non-creature artifacts. Yeah. Damn it.
Damn it.
Okay, so let's say Spectral Guardians may be more fun for Commander or something.
People you can still use it. It would be good in multiplayer games. You could use it with, you just, again, like tailor your deck to it a little more. Like you could do it with something like a board wipe, like to destroy their artifacts.
Still not as cool as Guardian Beast.
No, not as cool.
Or
It
not
is
as cool as
2/4.
Guardian Beast. Doesn't have 4 arms like Guardian Beast. Guardian Beast has 4 arms, I think.
And maybe you can trick someone into thinking Guardian Beast is 1 casting cost.
Yes. Yes. That's a bonus with several black Arabian Night cards. Yeah. Man. Should have bought him when he was again, we've had this conversation before, like, are these accurate? When we go back to 2013, 2015. Should have bought him for $40.
I know.
When we weren't paying attention.
I wasn't paying attention.
That's what happened, though. Magic just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then a bunch of people started paying attention again. That's why this price goes up.
Yeah. Nuts. Anyways, a couple more prices I'll throw at you real quick. I'm gonna leave one more that was on my spike list for the end because it kind of takes us into a little bit of a different thing.
We can talk about them next week, maybe.
Yeah. Some of the dips, I think we've mentioned City of Shadows recently already. It's down to $80. It's $80 pretty much. Like,
I knew that was coming down, and that's why I'm kind of I placed a dark, like I said, I placed a dark purchase yesterday. That's kind of why I just stuck to the commons, because I'm like, oh, a lot of these things from the dark that I thought I missed out on. I think it's they're entering the market again, and they're coming down pretty big, like the big hitters from the dark. City of the Shadows in particular was the one that really
I'm excited about this because I want to get one, and when I saw that it was $200 or $170 a while ago, I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, and we looked at this and we were like, oh, this is really much better than we remembered.
Yeah.
So it was probably it was too cheap at like $10, I think, but it was definitely too expensive at $200. I'm glad that's coming down again.
Yeah. So I'm gonna watch that for a little longer. I don't have any money to buy that or anything, but I'm gonna watch it. Also from the dark, I just noticed this because I was looking at the dark too. Psychic Allergy. This is a weird card, has distinctive artwork, but
I saw it in the chart, in the table, on the list when I was going through them yesterday, but it was at a higher price point than I wanted. I was only looking at cards that I could buy for like under $5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't read Psychic Allergy, didn't remind myself of what it did. But yeah, it's on its way down. 3 colorless, 2 blue. Enchantment. Choose a color when casting Psychic Allergy. During opponent's upkeep, Psychic Allergy does 1 damage to opponent for each card of this color that he or she controls. Sacrifice 2 islands during your upkeep or Psychic Allergy is destroyed. This was sounding really cool until the last part.
Yeah, it's not the best card. We definitely didn't like it back in the day. We thought this was bad. It's not very good, but it can be comboed. Some people do combo it, I guess. And I think this saw like a bit of a reserved list spike. I think it's reserved list, but
it is.
Saw a spike from that, I think, a little bit because it has artwork that you notice. But what did someone say? Let's see. It synergizes with Painter's Servant. Remember that card that we talked about briefly?
You have to destroy 2 of your islands during your upkeep. No, I don't remember Painter's Servant. From Shadowmoor? Why were we talking about Painter's Servant? Maybe because we were looking through the Calibus Inventions.
But yeah.
This is the first time I've ever heard of the set Shadowmoor, Alex. I haven't gotten this far yet.
I didn't know about that. I recognized the Masterpiece version.
Okay.
I do remember this art now. Yeah, I did see this.
It's a scarecrow. As it comes into play, choose a color. All cards that aren't in play, spells, and permanents are the chosen color in addition to their other colors.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can make everything the same color and then choose that color with the
including the cards in their deck that they haven't drawn yet.
Oh yes, like all cards that aren't in play.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
So,
but you got to sacrifice
one
2
color,
islands.
and then you use Psychic Allergy. Yeah, but you only have to leave it out for 1 or maybe 2 turns and just like pounds them.
2 turns is fucking 4 islands. You wipe
other
out your
people
mana
were
base.
talking about bouncing it back to your hand because the way you play it, the way the timing works, I can cast this. It'll affect my opponent, and then I can bounce it before I have to pay the islands.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a lot.
It is. It's kind of it's an awkward combo.
Yeah.
There's a card called Shifting Sky that does kind of the same thing as Painter's Servant. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I wouldn't be really playing this card. but it's coming back down. If someone did want it, you can get it for cheaper than you used to be able to.
It's $15 now instead of 20. I think it's going to come down a lot more.
Probably.
This looks like one of those reserve list buyouts that won't have legs.
Right.
Because it's just not, it's just not playable enough. There's just not a strong enough market for it.
I agree. Not enough people want it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just not enough people are going to be building decks. No, it's at $10 on TCG Player.
Okay, good. Coming down.
Force of Will, the Alliance version. I wanted to check on that because of the reprints.
Oh yeah, I want to watch this over the next couple of months.
And it is down, not a tremendous amount, but it's like $85 right now on TCG Player for a near mint one. And it's down. It was above 100. Get them for 85. So if you want Alliance Force of Will, it's, you know, keep your eye on it.
I think this one will hold strong because the standard art and Dominaria Remastered isn't nearly as good as the original.
Yeah. I think the original will retain value.
Yes. But they do have this Richard Kane Ferguson borderless variant.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is very cool. Now, I think these are being printed as like mystic or mythic rares.
Yeah.
But you know, when I found that out, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be even more rare than a rare. How much of an effect might that have on the prices of the originals? Is it going to soften the market? Are there going to be enough of them to actually soften the market? I went back to the Modern Horizons cards that we saw that dropped like crazy. No, sorry. The original printings of the cards that were reprinted in the Modern Horizons and then dropped like crazy because of the reprint. And I particularly looked at Cabal Coffers because that one plummeted. Remember? It's like the original was up to like $80 or something, and now it's like 25% of that price, of its high price or whatever. All because of the reprint in Modern Horizons 2. It was reprinted as a mythic rare in Modern Horizons 2 too. So it's like, even if it's a mythic rare, if the print run is large enough, it can still really affect the price.
mythic is just, I mean, pretty much anything that's going to be like awesome in a chase card is going to be a mythic, I think. Like there are some good rares they put in, but it's and they're not that much rarer than rares. I can't remember the difference in ratio, but it's like mythic rare compared to rare is not like that much more uncommon.
Yeah, Cabal Coffers. Over $100. Now $20.
Crazy.
I need to buy another Cabal. I bought one.
I was just thinking that too. I want to check that and see because I should buy a second one while it's still hanging out low. Yeah, but I don't think, maybe what I first said about Force of Will was misleading. I don't really expect it to come down a whole lot more.
It might. I don't think it will, but it might. Cabal Coffers wasn't a card that went up just because people were just like buying it out. Like it's a played card.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a highly playable card. As is
But I think people want the original Alliance's Force of Will. I think there's demand specifically for that card.
The original art is better than it's. If you look at the original art of Cabal Coffers and then the art on the reprint, it's the same art. The original looks better, darker border, a richer colors. It looks better.
All right, but,
the original Force of Will art is just so cool. But you know, the wild card is this is why I brought up the mythic. The wild card is the borderless.
Yeah.
Art by Richard Kane Ferguson. Like that's
we'll
pretty bad.
See how that compares over time.
But this still takes the cake, I think.
Yeah, I think it will continue to command an above $50 price.
Yeah.
Last dip. No dip segment would be complete without reporting on Library of Alexandria price.
Oh no.
Library of Alexandria is down 34% from $4,900 to $3,200, Steve.
Alex,
Pounce.
I'm gonna jump in at 1,000. This is the market price is 16.19. This I don't know how many of these sell.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge. The data on this is just not there. It's not.
What did you say it moved from?
It said in their weekly interest, it said it dropped from 4,900 to 3,200.
Average.
Yeah.
32.49. I want to
guess, when only one is for sale of something, it's just, I just brought this up as a joke,
Yeah, when only one is for sale, and it's like you never know if is it a graded one, is it a mint one?
Yeah, the condition
Heavy
can be
play
big
or
swing.
graded, you don't know.
Is the person selling it at a realistic price, or are they just trying to post it for something crazy?
Yeah.
Near mint $2,500 on TCG Player. There's 2 of them. A third for 3,000.
I miss my library, Alex. What are the light play?
Light play. 8 lightly played. 1,700 to 2,300.
I want it. What are the moderate play?
Hey, this 1,700 one is pretty nice. The lightly play. There's a picture. It's not bad looking.
I might buy that when I'm drunk one day. That could happen. Yeah. I like that there's a photo of it too.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, I wouldn't buy this without a photo. I almost wouldn't. I don't know if I'd even buy it online, man. I have to buy one of these in person, probably.
How though? You got to find somebody in town. How often is your shop going to have a Library of Alexandria?
Not often.
I don't know.
No, I'd buy one online. It would have to be from a few select vendors, though.
I bought mine online back in like 1996 from somebody in England.
Really, from England?
That's the memory I have. It was definitely in Europe. It was
awesome.
It was from Europe.
Came from Europe.
And I went to the post office and I purchased a whatchamacallit.
A mailing envelope?
No, damn it. You had to go, it wasn't a check. If you couldn't pay by
money order.
Money order.
Yeah.
I went to the post office. I got a money order. I shipped my money order overseas. And then a couple of weeks later, my Library of Alexandria showed up in the mail.
That's what we did. We would mail, for people who don't know, we would mail money orders to people to purchase our Magic cards.
I think that was the only time I did that. And I had no idea if it was going to work. I was just like, I don't know if this is going to show up or not.
Yeah. Right.
But it did. I was
can't believe we didn't get ripped off doing that.
Super psyched.
Well.
You save for that elephant graveyard. I'll save for my library. One day, Alex. The problem is the library is restricted, so you can only have one in your deck. So if you really want that library, you only have to pay $2,000. There's no point buying more than one.
That's true.
When it comes to the other big Arabian Nights lands, like the Bazaar of Baghdad, when people run those in decks, they usually run 4 ofs.
Oh, geez.
Elephant graveyards, I think. What does it do again?
It regenerates elephants.
Okay, so yeah, you would want that as at least a 2 of. Like you would want more than one.
You're right. You need more than one elephant graveyard.
This is why, at least like the really expensive things that I lust over, they're restricted. So I won't have to get more than one ever. Although I'll probably never get even one, but still.
Makes sense.
Tap to add 1 card less mana to your mana pool or regenerate an elephant or mammoth. Yeah, you would want 4 of these because they generate mana too. Oh, they're less than $1,000, Alex.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's not.
You need to strike.
I can't justify spending $300 or $400 on this. That's insane.
Yeah, you
I like it though. I like the artwork on it. I like some of these like old land artworks like this that are just kind of bleak, but there's like a lot of detail. The details like way in the background. There's like all these kind of like little things you can make out.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
2018 to 2020, it was let's say $125 to $150. It's not, you're never going to get it below 300 in your lifetime. You gotta strike while it's at 300, Alex.
You're probably right.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to get you to buy elephant graveyards. Not yet. Consult me first and then consult your palm reader and then you buy.
Lightly played 250 to 280, something like that right now. Looks like 250 to 300.
Can you trade? Do you have anything you can trade for an elephant graveyard?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like not fully, but like partially.
Yeah. I'd throw my if biff a freet in on an elephant graveyard.
Alex, we need to do one episode on your elephant deck, like your dream elephant deck. You got to think about what you're going to do with this elephant graveyard. Do you have like a deck list put together yet?
No.
I
expect it to be not really playable. I just like the artwork.
No, it doesn't have to be playable.
And
but you have to have like a deck idea in mind for it. We got to put together a set of 60 cards. Would be what 60 cards would be in your elephant deck when you build it.
All right.
Okay. Future project. Okay, I think that's it. We can wrap it up today, Alex.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to
Nice
say thanks
chat.
for listening, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the new format on YouTube. It's going to be changing a lot, trying to figure out exactly how I want the show to look, but we're trying out some video aspects of it now. You can continue to find new episodes of Old Man Magic on YouTube, hopefully every week. We try to do every Wednesday. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. I think that's it for now. You can find us on Twitter if you do social medias. We'll see how long Twitter lasts. I don't know what's going on with Twitter. I hear it's going crazy right now. My particular corner of Twitter is still pretty sane. I'm limited just to Magic the Gathering content. When I see non-Magic the Gathering content show up on my Twitter feed, I do unlike. I say, I do not like this. I click the button
from the monuments.
I remove it from my feed. So my feed, Old Man Magic feed, has been pretty sane. We also have an Old Man Magic Facebook. Nobody's on it yet. I often forget to cross post from Twitter to Facebook, but I'm going to try to start remembering. Maybe we'll have a community there one day. And I think that's it. That's all of our platforms, Alex. Those are all of our social medias. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
We have no Instagram. That's it. End of the show. Do you have anything else you want to add, Alex?
It's over. No, thanks for listening.
Okay. You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say we'll see you next week.
We will see you next week.
End of the year episode. Last episode of the year next week, right?
It's going to be huge. Talk to you later.
Bye.